politics has been full of twists and turns in the run-up to the US presidential elections, with the latest being Biden's shock announcement when the US president decided to withdraw his name from the race. In a historic move, he decided to end his re-election campaign, endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him as the Democratic candidate in an extraordinary decision that upends an already dramatic race for the White House. Joe Biden's announcement has been predicted over the last few days, especially with the former US President Barack Obama and former US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in favor of him exiting the race after several prominent US congressmen, donors and governors asked him to pull out. Well, Biden's health, age, fumbles and the recent gaffes had made it quite clear and evident that the octogenarian was not up for the challenges of the job. The top of the Democratic ticket is now up for grabs, so now the focus will be on who next after Biden. Kamala Harris is the most likely replacement to be on top of the list, with Biden already giving his endorsement. But that will again depend on the Democratic Party's nomination process and whether she is the right candidate. The Democratic Party is going to be taking quite a gamble if it turns to Vice President Kamala Harris to become its presidential candidate. In more than 2 centuries of US politics, American voters have elected only one black president and never a woman, a record that makes one wonder if Kamala Harris will be able to break through the hardest ceiling in US politics. Will age or gender be an issue? Well, yes, many feel that could be a huge challenge in her chance to be the next presidential candidate. But she does benefit from greater name recognition than other Democratic leaders who have been floated as potential presidential candidates. In addition to Kamala Harris, there are a number of politicians viewed as possible contenders. Well, none have said that they're seeking the nomination, and several, including California Governor Gavin Newsom, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, quickly endorsed Kamala Harris. Another prominent Democrat, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, made a point of saying, and I quote, "My job in this election will remain the same, doing everything I can to elect Democrats and stop Donald Trump." But with a triumphant Trump already boasting about Kamala Harris being an easier contender to beat, it will be now up to the delegates to choose their nominees as they meet for the party's convention in Chicago in August. While Democrats coalesce around Kamala Harris, a lot needs to happen before she's formally chosen as the party's candidate for the upcoming November elections. From the shocking assassination bid on Donald Trump to the surprise announcement of J.D. Vance,
I officially accept your nomination to be Vice President of the United States of America.
To Biden's shock announcement to opt out of the U.S. presidential election, the 2024 U.S. presidential election is getting more interesting and intriguing with each passing day. The standing down of President Biden is just the latest twist in this extraordinary race and could perhaps be the circuit breaker the Democrats were looking for. There is no doubt that Trump has the momentum, especially the assassination attempt that provided the Republican leader with a unique opportunity to emerge as a taller leader. His defiant fist after he immediately stood up after being shot with blood on his face has become a defining image of his entire political campaign. An iconic image that will go down in the history of the US and will certainly be replayed by Trump and his supporters throughout his campaign. The Democrats' best strategy now is to turn the election into a referendum on Trump's negatives, which they define as chaos of his first term and threat to American institutions. The departure of Joe Biden provides that opportunity to them. According to The Guardian, US elections are determined by massive turnouts. Well, the Make America Great Again base is energized by Trump's resurrection. Democrats will have to push the buttons of various sections of the electorate to try and motivate that big, huge turnout. And for that, the right choice of candidate is now going to be decided. Many are calling Biden's decision a selfless act. But will that help the party find its footing in the race? For all the grateful talk about Biden's sacrifice and praise for his many achievements in his first term, the president does risk being remembered for having provided Donald Trump an opening to retake the White House in November. And many Democrats do remain doubtful about Kamala Harris's ability to beat Trump and her not electrifying the electorate. Yet, overlooking her at this extraordinary period in US politics would perhaps alienate the black voters, particularly those loyal Democrat women who are quite crucial to the party's base. Some are also of the thought that by choosing Kamala Harris, black voters will be galvanized if Harris is put at the top of the ticket, and many women voters would also be backing her. Interestingly, the spotlight has now turned to the former First Lady Michelle Obama as well as a potential game changer. The plot thickens with murmurs and whispers around Michelle Obama's potential political comeback as well.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Long before Biden's disastrous performance at the debate, Democrat power brokers had ignored repeated messages from voters that they thought him too old to become their candidate. Now the sense of doom that had descended on the Democrats' campaign over the past month will be replaced by a renewed sense of possibility and hope. After the successful Republican convention, many of those who intended to vote for Trump also concede that they don't much like the man, but they're prepared to vote for his policies on immigration, economy, and crime. Therefore, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next if Kamala Harris's endorsement is challenged by any other contenders. Many who have backed Harris are keeping silent. Well, it's far from clear if any prominent Democrats will challenge Kamala Harris in what could be a very complicated process to replace Joe Biden. And if the party unites around her, some of those future presidential prospects could become contenders for her vice presidential pick. So it's interesting to watch this space closely as the race to the White House is heating up following Biden's last-minute bombshell exit and the various twists and turns in this political soap opera.